The concept of ghost stories that are kind of about revengeful spirits and their inability to pass on unless they seek out those who wronged them in their life goes back quite a few decades. A lot of people in, I would say, my generation who were first exposed to that with films like The Ring, or even maybe what's another one? The Haunting might be a good one with Liam Neeson. But I decided to give this kind of old school one a chance. 1981's Ghost Story. Nice, simple name, kind of gets right to the point, tells you exactly what it is, exactly what it's going to be about. What really intrigued me by this was that it pops up on a lot of conversations about these sort of hidden gems that are just underappreciated. And I can kind of understand why this one is underappreciated. But what has to be said is that the underappreciation might just come from it's old. You know what I mean? We're talking it's almost 50 years old at this point, so things are a little different now. So returning to it in this day and age is hard. It's easier for me because I have an appreciation for that older school way of how film was done, because that's how film was for that time. Trying to show somebody a film from the 80s now might be a little bit more difficult, but there is an appreciation you should have for this story because it is still part of that genre where it fits and it does its story good. I'm not going to say that it blew me away. It was exactly what it needed to be, and it needed to get its point across, and it did exactly that. I thought the idea of having these four best friends that are just always met, and they just always like sit down and they have a drink together and they talk about the old time in suits, like that's very much of the time, but that's what we do now. That's still kind of something you can relate to in some sense. And the story isn't exactly different to a lot of these things because it does involve, the four friends, a woman, she loves one, another one gets jealous or something, and then she winds up dying, and they bury her. So it's a secret, and nobody knows. And because they bury the secret, she becomes a vengeful spirit and comes back, 40, 50 years later when they're all old men and starts wreaking havoc on them to get revenge. Now, the scary aspect is good for what was kind of making people like scared of that time. And the practical effects are really good too. When you think about 80s practical effects, you can get certain things that aren't fully funded, I guess you can say, like though you can tell the budget wasn't there, but this feels like there's a good amount of stuff really put into the work to tell this story. Now, this story is based on a novel written by Peter Straub. Now, Peter Straub is I want to say like a New York Times bestselling author who had two of his stories turned into films. It was this one, and it was another film called Full Circle, I believe, but I can't remember what year it was in. He's won a bunch of awards for his writing, and he wrote this book. It was turned into this movie, so there is a source material aspect to it, but I don't know a lot about that source material to know if it's really true to the book or anything. I just know that from what I understand about it being based on the book is that this was the last film that was done for Peter Straub. And I thought I had seen that name a little bit more often, but I guess maybe it's just another Peter something that sounds like Peter Straub. But yeah, I guess it wasn't good enough to the source material that maybe he didn't allow anybody else to adapt his work, because those are the only two films from him as an author and from his work, because he's written, I want to say when I was looking at the chart, about 24 novels. So having that many novels and getting your foot in the door to get movies made, there's only two things that really get backed off from that. It's either you don't want to do it or they don't want to do it with you. I don't know which it was. All I know is that it's not a film that just is a plain screenplay. This was based on a novel, so there is another piece of source material out there if you are somebody who is a diehard fan of this film. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm adding this to any lists of mine. This was not something that I watched with with a lot of expectations. I went in very open-minded. I gave it very much its own fair share, and I just couldn't really get it to a point where it was something that it was stopping me in my tracks. Again, it has nothing to do with the time frame or the story itself or the movie in and of itself. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't something that I guess I would say. So now here's the other thing. I, for a couple of months, have been watching a lot of horror movies just so I can prepare for Halloween time. And this was one of them. It popped up on some things I was reading about trying to find unique horror movies and I could add to any one of the lists that I was making or try to talk about in any aspect I could for the Halloween season. And I thought it might be good for my 31 Days of Horror video, but then again, I can't get behind it because to me, I know that it might be a hidden gem to some people, but I don't think it's that much of a hidden gem that it deserves to be more than just word of mouth. And maybe I would have added it, but I don't know. There were so many other movies I wanted to put on that list that this one kind of was like, I'll give it its own entry, but I don't think it's something that needs to be fully put out there. It is, again, it's good, but it's not great, and it's not better than any of the other stories that are very similar to it. It's a very cookie cutter story from a lot of other horror films that are just like the same thing. Vengeful spirit, what do they have to do to get rid of it? They have to lay the spirit to rest, but a lot of people die before that even happens. So take that with a grain of salt, because it is just my opinion. And if you're interested in something that's a little bit old school, maybe give it a shot, and you might find a different appreciation for it. So yeah, before I go, I do want to mention something. I started a Letterboxd account. I had heard a lot of things about Letterboxd, and a lot of the things that I do involve me looking at ratings for things. So, like when you look at the ratings for a film like Ghost Story, you see stuff like IMDb, which has it a little bit higher, but then Rotten Tomatoes will kind of sit it at more of a place where I feel it belongs. It's in that kind of mid-range for the audience, but kind of lower for the critics. So when it came to me enjoying talking about films and doing all that stuff, I had heard about Letterboxd because I kept seeing it pop up for these ratings and these reviews that I kind of try to read. I kind of try to get an idea of what other people are seeing and whatnot. And Letterboxd is just a very interesting tool because it's kind of like, Facebook meets IMDb and journal writing thrown in. It's very unique to me, and I'm very happy I discovered it. And the link to my Letterboxd is in the bio links with all of my other links on the channel. If you would like to check out some of the stuff I've been adding there. I kind of haven't been adding a lot. I've only added the first 4 films they kind of wanted there, and I want to do more, and I want to sit down and write some more because it is enjoyable to write about movies just as much as it is to talk about movies. And I've said before, these are unscripted. I don't really do a lot of writing when I do the Diary of a Cinephile videos. This is just me and my natural reaction to things. So I feel like that natural reaction can also be put into words, and that's what I appreciated about Letterboxd. So I just signed up for that. If you're a fan of the channel, find me on there. I'm on just about everything else right now, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be because it is kind of hard to manage a whole bunch of different social networks. So I do feel like some of those are going to be going soon. What are we on? We're on day 8. We're on day 8, and I'm going pretty strong with this. So this has been a good year so far. Last night came out pretty late. The night before that came out pretty late. I don't know when this one's going to drop. I'm hoping to get it out too late, but I'm going to try to get them out earlier again. But yeah, if you're still watching, thank you. And, check out Ghost Story. It's not bad.